Welcome to the Junk Drawer Mamas with your hosts 𝗬𝗏 and 𝗏𝐻RISTINA. We are so glad you're here with us as we sort through the drama and the trauma of life's hidden struggles to uncover hope and healing with a side of humor on this roller coaster ride we like to call extreme parenting. Whether you're raising a child or a teen with special needs, dealing with challenging behaviors, tackling addiction, mental health issues, or working through the trauma associated with foster care, it's a lot, and we get it. But you don't have to do this alone. So grab a cozy chair, settle in, and let's take this journey together.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Junk Drawer Mamas podcast. We are here with episode 6. I am 𝗬𝗏 and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, 𝗏𝗏. And we are still on the topic of stress. So we are digging into the junk drawer and we are still tackling, because I believe that's a big issue. We both believe that's a very big issue. There's so many topics that fall under stress. So this is one of those items in the junk drawer that probably takes up the majority of the drawer as we talk about what the junk drawer represents. It's all that stuff that's hidden. We don't want to deal with it. We don't know how to deal with it. We don't know where to put it. So stress is one of those things that affects us. I think whether you're a mom, a wife, a special needs mom, a mom in an extreme parenting situation, or just a human being, everybody deals with stress, especially in the world we live in today. The statistics of people that are at an all-time high stress level is just astronomical. And so I think I read an article recently that was talking about 47% of parents right now are in a very high stress state. Now, this had nothing to do with special needs moms or extreme parenting. It's just in general, parents are in such a high state of stress. And so we've been breaking that down and talking about it. We talked about stress in marriage. We talked about stress. Yes, last episode, we talked about stress and how it affects our body and how, carrying extra weight around could be the cause of high stress and high cortisol levels. So if you want to check on that episode, that's episode 5, where we talk more about the health risks of having a chronic, long, ongoing, stressful life. Today, we're actually going to be talking about how stress affects our identity. And this is something that as 𝗏𝗏 and I do our brainstorming and our planning of how we're going to do these podcasts, we bounce ideas off each other. And this was one of the issues that it kept coming up. And we have talked about it a few times, I think, in the introduction episodes that we did, in its identity. But it kept coming back up again. And so this time we're going to talk about how identity is linked to stress when we're operating in the wrong identity. And I know this is something that was very important to 𝗏𝗏, so I'm going to turn that over to her. And she's kind of going to describe, what does that mean? How does stress affect our identity? Or what does that even mean, in the realm of what we talk about here on this podcast?
Yeah. So, me and 𝗬𝗏 was talking about just like some quick little, stories of, in our parenting journey, how we felt like our identity was almost just wrapped up in our kids and we had no identity. For instance, at our church for years, we were everybody knew us as the people with all the kids. We were the family with all the kids because we always pretty much had 10 kids with us every time So I can see why people thought, hey, that's the family with all the kids. And we kind of got, that name or that whatever, that label, I guess, the family with all the kids. But you're the lady that's got all the kids. And so that's just who I was. I was the mom with all the kids. And so, it was kind of almost comical for a while but then that that led into, gosh, when we lost our 17-year-old son, 𝗵𝗇, we became known as the people whose son died. And that got so heavy to carry, just everybody looking at you like, that's the people whose son died. And it was like, we weren't even the people with all the kids. We were the people whose son died. And it got so heavy that we actually stepped away from our church for about 6 months. And nobody was saying it or doing anything like that to be mean. It just became like our identity and who we were now. And it was just too much. We had to step away from that. And so we did leave our church for about 6 months, and we ended up going back. But our identity can get so misplaced, and just because of, if you're a parent with a child with Down syndrome, oh yeah, that's the lady that's got the girl with Down syndrome, that her child has Down syndrome. Oh yeah, that's the lady with all the kids. Oh yeah, that's the lady who's, and people see us as that. And then the next thing you know, we see us as that. That's who we almost become. Like, we were talking, we were discussing earlier, just, on a call, me and Dina, about how we almost hide behind our kids a lot of times, and that identity of me being the mom with all the kids, and it almost becomes a comfort for me, like, because that means nobody sees who I am. I'm just, everything about me has to do with my kids. And so when we've been told, maybe growing up that, you're always fearful, you're always afraid, you're always this, you're always that, or just things that you've kind of walk through in life leads you down that path of feeling that you are small. It's easy to stay hidden behind the kids, because who's not proud of their kids? Who doesn't want everybody to know all the great stuff that their kids are doing? So when you throw all that stuff out there first, then you don't have to talk about yourself at all. Everything becomes about them.
Yeah.
And so we get lost kind of in the background, and some of us really like being in the background. Some of us. But the problem with that is that's not who Jesus wants us to be. He wants us to be who he created us to be. He wants us to be moms to these kids, but he also wants us to fulfill our calling and what he placed us here for. And it's more than just being a mom. Every one of us have got a calling, whether it's, maybe working with the elderly and having a ministry in that direction. Maybe it's a podcast, reaching out to other moms that need somebody. But every one of us have got a calling outside of being a mom.
Absolutely.
And when the devil convinces us that we don't have a voice and that we have nothing that anyone wants to hear, we have a tendency to just kind of, those of us that are comfortable with that and don't want to be out in the spotlight, have a tendency to fall into that trap of just not doing, like being in our church for 20 years and never stepping out and doing anything. Volunteering if they need help, but never putting ourselves out there, never serving, never really doing what God has called us to do, because we get in that comfort zone of being little. And that's not who God called any of us to be. And then again, like we're talking about the stress around that. When we are not operating in who God's called us to be, everything gets kind of muddled together. Everything gets stressful, and we don't even understand it necessarily. We don't know why. We don't understand why we're not feeling fulfilled. Because we're not operating in that calling. It's because we're not doing what God's called us to do.
Yeah. It's because we're not operating in the identity, the proper identity. So one of the things that why this even became a topic that we wanted to sort through and work through, is that I think when you are trying to operate your life from an identity of anything other than the child of God, as the daughter or the son of the King, that's your root. That's your base. That is who you are. That's who you get your significance from. Everything else is a byproduct of that. So if we're looking to be a mom, to be a wife, to be a, whatever it is, you fill in the blank of whatever that is for you. What happens when that thing is taken away?
Yes.
Okay. What happens if you lose that job? You lose the child, God forbid. Like, I would never want to walk through what you walk through. And you did have other kids, but there's parents that have lost a child and have never had another child. That is an extremely traumatic thing that affects every core of who you are. But the thing is that doesn't change your identity as far as who you are and how God sees you.
Right.
If everything we do is rooted in something here on this earth, it can be taken from you. It could change. You could change. You could decide you don't want to do that thing anymore. For almost 20 years, I was an executive youth director working with at-risk teens, and that was taken from us. Okay? And that's a story all in of itself, but it was something that we fought to keep going. But God, that season, God was closing it. And we had to go through a grieving process of that. And I didn't know what my identity was. And I was a mom and a wife, but I didn't know what my identity was once that was gone. I didn't think my life would be anything other than that. But now I look at my life now and I can't imagine my life anything but this. And I don't know, where God's going to take me out for the rest of my life. But I just know that there was a time that I thought I couldn't do anything else but that. So for putting our identity in a thing, a person, a career, that's not what God called us to be. But the one thing that you said that, you were at a church for 20 years and you didn't serve in that capacity. how many times did you use that identity of I'm the mom with all the kids, I don't have time? Because I know for
Yes.
me,
Oh, yeah.
I did that when there was a season once we closed our youth outreach. Because it was such a deep pain and a traumatic thing to walk through, there was at least, I would say 7 years now that we had to walk through that healing of that. But that was also 7 years of raising 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗏. She's 14 now. But in that 7 years, I can't even tell you how many times I used her as my excuse to not be able to step out and do something different.
Yep.
I can't because I'm a special needs mom. I can't because I don't have any childcare. That was the biggest thing. I can't because nobody can watch her. I can't because I don't have the money. I can't. It was always something, but so many times I would hide myself behind her and I wouldn't even go to family functions or things because I had 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗏. I had to take care of her. I would bow out of things, even with my own family, because I didn't have anyone to watch 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗏. Not that I would even look for anyone to watch her.
Right.
I would just, nope, I'll take one for the team. I got to stay home with my child. And that was, something that I didn't even realize I was doing. I was manipulating that situation. And because I didn't want to step out and be anything. I was comfortable, as we were saying earlier.
Yes.
It's kind of like putting on those yoga pants and the t-shirt. It's like, it's not very attractive, but it's comfortable. It's familiar. You do it. You just get up and it's the same routine. That's kind of how I was. Like I was hiding behind all of that. I didn't want to put myself out there and be something different. And so anyway, what I was asking is, was that like that for you when you were at your church for 20 years? How many times did you feel yourself in that same situation?
Oh my gosh, yes. That was a given. I mean, that was all the time. It was so easy because I was the mom of so many kids that, nobody even looked in my direction a lot of times to work in the nursery.
She's too busy to help us.
Exactly. Honestly, when you've got 10 kids at home, who wants to go on Sunday and be in the nursery? And then when I was asked, I almost was offended by it, which is stupid to say because, somebody is watching my kids every week.
Yes.
Common sense says I need to step in and watch other people's, but I'm like, good Lord,
I don't want to watch anyone else's kids.
My life is kids.
Mine.
This is all I do is kids. So when I come Sunday, it's just my time, and it's selfish. It really is selfish. But yeah, I'm like, oh man, the last thing I want to do is go. And I think some people think, well, she's got a lot of kids. She just must love taking care of all these kids. No, I want a break. I mean, honestly, I want a break on Sunday. Oh, but there is a balance to that too. I mean, obviously you shouldn't have to work every week, but you do your part too. Also, I do agree with that for sure. Yeah, I mean that was a lot of times I did that and hid behind that that identity of I've got all these kids, I've got all and there's stress that's automatically wrapped up in all of this kind of parenting that causes us to be stressed out just in trying to get that many kids ready for church that we're like, well, we're not even going to make it today, or trying to get, kid to cooperate. As like with 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗏, she's not always super cooperative with you. Oh,
not even close.
I mean, you might have a plan to go to church and we're not always dependable, maybe too, like we need to be, or be there on time to run kids ministry or whatever that looks like because of there. And so there is some truth to that, but we can quickly fall into that other side of using it as an excuse too, as we both know. Yeah.
You also said that this might have been in our conversation before we started recording, but we were talking about the fact that the enemy wants us to feel small, and it might happen all throughout your life. So, the enemy has known your value before we know our value. And through our entire life, he's been, planning and strategizing to try to get us not to know our true identity and to step into what God has called us to do. And so it could have been a childhood trauma. It could have been, it could have been a teacher that said something, like our writing coach. I remember her saying that she had a teacher that told her she would never be a writer. And now she's a published author and coaching award-winning author and coaching other authors for Kingdom Impact, but somebody told her that she would never be a writer. You know what I mean? And so that was the enemy trying to plant that thought that she wasn't good enough to do what God had called her to do. But what we found out is that both Christine and I seem to have felt that same way. So she may not have the same scenario as me. I'm somebody that has spent a good chunk of my career in a public speaking setting, in a teaching setting, on a stage. So I find that I can hide on a stage. I can be the one that's controlling the atmosphere on the stage, and I don't have to be up front and talk to somebody personal. I'm more intimidated by the upfront close conversations where she was like, I don't want to be on a stage. I'd rather be in the up close. So it's interesting how we are. But both of us have felt like, I don't have anything to say. No one's going to listen to me. Why am I doing this? I'm not equipped to this. So it didn't matter whether I was speaking on a stage or she was
hiding behind the stage.
Is hiding behind the stage with her 10 kids in tow. We both felt the same way. It's interesting how the enemy will still attack your identity and your mindset, even in two completely different scenarios. You can be in a crowd of people and feel utterly alone and feel utterly isolated and feel like nobody sees you or nobody knows who you are because you don't know who you are. You aren't connected with who your true identity is. And we carry that frequency when you are walking around in this state of not knowing who you are and not, you don't let anybody in. We hide behind that. Then other people sense that too.
Yeah.
And so that's what we carry.
And when, you spend time with God and you're praying, God will continue to lead you in the direction of your identity and who he's created you to be and who he's called you to be and the things that he's called you to do. So your heart and your spirit is going in this direction, moving in the direction that God is taking you to. But if you're stuck in that old identity, then it's constantly pulling you back, saying you're not big enough, you're not good enough, you don't know how to do this. Who do you think you are? This is not you. This is not something that you could ever do. I could never see myself speaking in front of people on stage. As a matter of fact, when we started discussing this podcast, we knew it was God. We knew that it was something that God wanted us to do. We were both going to be obedient to that. But when Dina started talking about doing it with a video and having to sit in front of a camera, talk about my stress level going through the roof, I'm like, why do we have to be on camera? I don't want to be on camera. Why can't we just record us?
Oh my gosh.
I was fine with talking with nobody seeing me. I mean, as fine as I could be. I wasn't even super comfortable with that, but
and
I knew that
now,
God was telling me
girl.
to. And I'm like, this is not a comfortable thing for me. But that being said, I am learning my identity in Christ. I am learning to stop believing the lies that the enemy has told me for so many years. And a lot of times it comes, it might come from like a teacher or something, but a lot of times it comes from our parents when we're kids.
Yeah.
That being said, we're not angry at our parents by any means. They make mistakes just like we make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And it's not something they did, viciously. But, sometimes you notice a child that is more fearful. And so you'll say, oh, you're scared of everything. Christina's afraid of everything. And so I believe that. And for me, it turned into a fear of man and what somebody's going to think of me. They're going to think I'm stupid if I say that. They're going to think I look stupid if I, And so for me, that just really manifested as a fear of man. Not afraid, like, I'll jump out of a plane. I'm not afraid to do any of that kind of stuff.
I've jumped out of a plane. We're going to do this together.
Right. I'm not afraid of that kind of stuff.
You could do that. You could do anything.
Yeah, but give me a microphone and put me in front of people and my hands shaking like so bad I can't even like
to her death, then speak in front of somebody on a microphone. That's right. Actually, public speaking is like one of the number one fears.
I can see why. I completely relate. Yeah, I mean, but you were talking about those comments of like, it could be, I think that a lot of them are passive aggressive comments. It's not so much like, oh, you're this or you're that. It's like, oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Are you actually going to wear that when you leave? Right.
It's just that, like, I was planning on it, but maybe not, so then you start questioning yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's always that if I were you, I wouldn't do it this way, or I would. So then you start thinking that what you wanted to do, maybe it was speaking. You're like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do that. So if somebody just said, oh, I don't know, I could never get up and do that. Then you're like, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So the enemy, again, starts to plant thoughts in, but sometimes they're in subtle ways you're not even realizing. It doesn't have to necessarily be somebody screaming at you, telling you're a worthless piece of garbage. No, it's a lot of times it's those subtle things that get you to start questioning who you are.
Yeah. And so, this last, especially year, because this podcast has been a year in the making.
Exactly.
Since God told us to do this. And quite honestly, this last year has been very stressful because of knowing that this is something that God called me to do. And I know that I don't dare be disobedient to something that I know for sure God's telling me to do. But on the flip side of that, the stress of that was really heavy for me because this is not something in myself that I want to do or thought that I could do. This is something that puts
That's
me out
interesting.
there.
She was the one, just so you know, people, she's the one who was pushing. I was like,
I was.
oh, we have time. We have time to do this. She's like, no, if we don't do this now, I'm going to lose interest.
Right. Well, and the reason why, though, is because I know me well enough to know that if I'm on that ledge and if I'm just push me off, if I'm getting ready to jump off the cliff, just shove me, because I might not go on my own, but I'll be happy once that I did it. Once I did it, but I might ledge. Right. So, I mean, but there was a lot of fear wrapped around this, stepping out and doing it, because I've always lived in that space of, you can't do that. You don't have a voice that somebody's going to listen to. You don't have you don't have anything to say. You don't have anything anybody wants to hear. So this last year has just been a back and forth with that. Like, is anybody even going to want to hear what we have to say? Is anybody going to even be able to relate to us? Is anybody, and that, but then knowing that God's telling us to do this, and it's just that stress of like, God, I know you're calling me to this, but how do I do this when I'm so, I'm in this fear of, what is everybody going to think? What is my family? Everybody is going to think we're crazy.
We are crazy.
Why are we doing this? Yeah. It's been fun.
A couple of things that you just said too that just kind of spurred something is that, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, we're being extra silly on this one.
Yeah.
So, I want to tie this back to, okay, let's get ourselves back together here. I want to tie this to parenting. I know what I was going to say. You said that you feel, I can't do this. This is too heavy. This is too hard. You're talking about the podcast, okay, or speaking. But if you tie that into being a parent of a special needs child, okay, so let's bring this stress thing and our identity back to the parenting issue or extreme parenting. That is something that I dealt with, and I'm sure that you have too. So Christy and I have different stories. She chose to be a special needs child or special needs parent. She specifically adopted at least 3 children that had special needs that I know of. I did not choose that. I didn't even want another child. I was 42. I was not, I did not want another child, and I certainly wasn't prepared to raise another child that was going to be with me for the rest of my life. So I have a different journey with that. But I 100% felt like I couldn't do it. Although I had already raised 4 kids and I was working in an outreach where I was working with, like I said, probably all said and done over 1,000 teens over the 20 years that I did that. I did not feel equipped to raise Gracie. I felt like I was the wrong person. God, why did you pick me? I'm too old. I'm too this. I'm not enough of that. All that identity stuff came in. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even like little kids, all these other things. Can't you just give her to me when she's a teenager? And so I felt so unqualified to do that. So as we were talking about like a career speaking, we can also feel that way as a parent. And so when I find that I am on scrolling social media and I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups of moms that are of special needs children or an extreme situation, and they're crying out for help, and they are in this place of despair where they feel like they just want to give up, and they say, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Does anybody else feel this way? I know now that used to be me, but I know now that that means they're not operating in their true identity. They're not partnering with God doing this. And so I've said so many times on this and also my YouTube channel that I share daily encouragement with is that if you might be able to keep your child alive and you might be able to do all the things that a mom would do, but will you be able to do that without losing your identity? Will you be able to do that without ever losing a moment of peace or joy? Will you be able to do that with self-control, with gentleness and kindness and knowing who you are? I can't do that without God. So I have to partner with him. So if there's a mom that is stressed and striving and just doesn't know, she can't go on another moment, she does not know who she is. Because when you know who you are and you understand who your Heavenly Father is, and you know what your identity is, and then you allow the Holy Spirit to teach you how to take your authority over that stress, over that chaos.
Yes.
You can still parent even in a difficult situation without losing yourself, without losing your identity.
Yes.
And so this is a journey that both Christine and I have been on to try to re-find ourselves through this.
Yes.
And once we realized, I would say the combination of managing our physical selves, our physical stress, our physical health, and partnering with the spirit inside, the inner man, the Holy Spirit to help us, that's the combination to be able to do something very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could speak to that a little bit more, Christina.
Well, to be very clear, this is a daily thing. Me and Dina have in no way arrived to, we are just completely know our identity so well that we are always talking to our kids the right way, that we're just always parenting in joy daily. This is not, we're not there. This is something that we have to do daily. This is a daily walk. This is a thing we daily fill out. And, we were discussing this too the other day, that why does it seem to get so much more difficult, like as the day goes on?
Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's because we get worn down, we get tired, and, we wake up and we're like, we've got this day, we've got this, we're going to do this, we pray, we start off our day right, we start off our day with God and putting some Jesus in. And so, we're feeling victorious at the beginning of the day. And as the next kid argues with the next kid, and you break up the next fight, and you deal with, a poopy mess in the other room, or, you deal with the stuff that you deal with, you get more tired and more kind of just frustrated. And you're like, oh my gosh, again. And you just feel like everything's pulling on you. And it's so easy to step outside of that identity and to lose that identity and just feel tired and overwhelmed. And we were talking about what the solution looks like to that. And that is to constantly throughout the day, especially when we're feeling tired and weary, is to renew our minds.
Yeah.
Put something on, whether it's worship, whether it's, getting alone for 5 minutes and praying, to constantly renew our mind and to get that hope back, and ask God for that, lay it at his feet and tell God, if we need more grace, I need grace to be able to finish out this day, to just constantly keep taking it back to Jesus when we're feeling that way. And like I said, we have not arrived to where we want to be, but thank God we're not where we used to be. It's a constant,
it's a
daily
very
thing.
Intentional walk.
It is.
You cannot just kind of fly by the seat of your pants in this journey at all. You actually really have to intentionally choose how you want to show up every single day, every single moment. And like Christina said, you may have to pull yourself away for a few minutes, even with the kids. Like, I know we said this before, we shared this picture of all her kids outside of her office, and there's like the camera from their hallway looking down at her office. There's like, 5 or 6 kids standing in front of her door, but she had to get in that room to just spend a few minutes alone with God. It doesn't matter what it looks like. You've got to be able to do that, because if we don't, this is so important to hear this. If there's any mom out there that's listening to this, we become a weapon in the hands of the enemy against our family when we do not take care of ourselves.
Yes.
And our words are biting, and our words can be hurtful. When you're tired, we're going to talk about this in the next episode. This is what the part 2 of this is. But you will become, because you're not partnering with God, that means you're partnering with the enemy, and that he will use you unconsciously, not even knowing you're doing it, because you're not caring for yourself and you're not caring for your spirit. You're not taking a moment to step away. He will use you as a weapon to hurt somebody else, whether that's your spouse, whether that's your children, or yourself.
Yeah.
You could get down on yourself. You can beat yourself up. You could, for me, I spent years feeling suicidal and just such in despair because I was beating myself up, because I just felt like no matter what I tried, I couldn't be better at it. And it's not about being better. This whole journey is not about being better. We will never tell you how to be a better parent on this channel. It's not going to be about that. It's if anything, it's about being a better human in general, but we are not equipped to do that on our own. You have to walk with Holy Spirit and allow him to transform you to be able to do that. The byproduct of surrender to the Holy Spirit is being a better human being, is being able to walk in those fruits of the Spirit. You can't do that without it, because you're going to falter. You might have days, you might even have seasons where it seems to be fine, but there's always going to be something that comes in and takes that away from you. And if you are not rooted in who you are truly are, it is going to be something that is very devastating to walk through.
Yes.
So I was a weapon. I used my mouth to hurt people, not intentionally, but I did. And I said things to my children I should have never come out of my mouth. I said things to my husband, and vice versa. It's not like, we all were doing it because we weren't taking care of ourselves. And we were very stressed out when we were running our outreach, and we weren't caring for our physical health, our spiritual health, or our family or relational health. We were so busy serving that we forgot that God cared more about our hearts and our relationship with him than what we could do for him. And so we have to remember that God called us at, I look at it now as an honor that he chose me to parent Gracie. I used to look at like, why would you do this to me? But now I look at it as an honor that he's called me to partner with him on doing that. But I still can't do that without every single day coming to him and saying, okay, what do you need me to do? You know, we have a dear friend of ours in our writing group that just shared with us recently, and I've been doing this. Hope you're listening, Chantel. But anyway, she gave us this prayer and just told us to like anoint every area of your body, your mind, your lips, your ears, your hands, you know. And so before we even say a word out of our mouth to our children or to our spouse, that you cover yourself first. So many times that we are operating in this constant state of stress, we're not taking that time to do that or even asking God, please use me in a good way today. We already know that we can be used in a bad way, you know. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that we shared that it's so, so important for you to take care of every aspect of your inner man, your spirit man, and your physical, you know, because the enemy prowls around like a roaring lion looking for those that are weak.
Yep.
And moms get weak. And moms, especially moms in our situations, get very weak and very tired and very stressed out.
Yes.
Anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about on the next episode. We'll be back soon to talk about that. So any closing thoughts that you want to share?
Just, you know, it's a daily walk. It is daily. Every day you get up, you've got to put on that armor. You've got to put your Jesus in.
With your yoga pants, put your armor on.
Right. You got to put your Jesus in.
Your armor.
You've got to, and then pray that you don't lose him throughout the day with anybody or anything.
Is the armor stretchy? I need stretchy armor.
Yeah. Yes.
I need armor with elastic.
Yeah. It's constant. It's consistent. It's just like the best thing we can do for parenting our kids is to be consistent. It's the same thing with our relationship with Jesus. Be consistent. Do it daily. Do it throughout the day. It's a relationship. It's a relationship. Yeah.
So we are going to wrap this up, and we are going to come back with you on the second part of this, that we're going to talk about how, you know, what is that like when we walk through the seasons where we're very weary, or even just like Christina was saying, the end of the day where we are just like, I've had it. And that's when, you know, we can pray ourselves up. Then all of a sudden the end of the day comes. I find that happens with me a lot with 𝗬cie, that I'm fine all day long until it's bedtime. Then all of a sudden, like, I'm sitting there crying and praying, Lord, please forgive me again. So anyway, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that. But thank you so much for joining us today. And we just ask that if you know a mom that's really hurting or struggling or just needs encouragement, please share this with her. Please, you know, it would mean the world to us if you would go on the different ways that you watch this, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. Those are the different places that we are streaming. And just say hi, just make a comment, you know, follow us, hit like or whatever that is, and share it. That helps us to be able to reach more people, more moms. You know, we would do this for one. Honestly, Christina and I would do everything that we're doing if it was just helped one mom know who she is and know that she's not alone. But we do hope that it does reach more moms and more people. So anyway, we thank you, and we are excited about the next time that we get to meet again, where we are going to sort through another part of this episode of stress in our junk drawer. So we would just want to say we love you and have an awesome week. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us and listening to the Junk Drawer Mamas podcast. If today's episode encouraged you, share it with a mom who could use a little extra love and support. We'd love to hear from you too. Leave us a review and let us know what you think, or send us your ideas for what you want us to tackle in the junk drawer. You can email us anytime at junkdrawermamas@gmail.com. Stay connected with us on social media. Follow Dina at Specially Empowered Moms and Christina at Faith Through Foster Care for more encouragement and updates on our upcoming books. From two mamas in the throes of extreme parenting, we want you to know that you're doing a great job, mama, and you don't have to have it all together. But what's hidden can't be healed, so let's keep sorting through it together, one step, one story, and one laugh at a time. See you next time when we tackle another item in the junk drawer of life. Have an awesome week.